7 crews set out from northern Spain on a 31,000 nautical mile race around the globe in what is the roughest, toughest, fully crewed challenge in ocean racing. It would be a journey of triumph and of tragedy, truly life at the extreme. This is the story of the 2005-06 Volvo Ocean Race. The Volvo is still the battle against the harshest conditions on the planet it always was. But in the 4 years since the last event, the race has changed. In come smaller crews, a new race format, and a brand new class of boat. The Volvo Open 70s are the fastest fleet of monohull racing yachts ever built. These are not so much boats, say their skippers, as weapons. Faster, lighter and more powerful than the 60s they replaced, the 70s can sail faster than the wind. Maximum sail area is a massive 500 square meters. Top boat speeds over 45 miles an hour.
These boats are, will do 20 plus knots, at the click of your fingers. They're overpowered, over-canvassed, under-crewed and very light. So, you've got to be pretty careful this time.
Leg 1 of the race takes the fleet on a 6,400-mile arc from Vigo, northern Spain, to Cape Town. Leg 2 sees the boats tackle the icebergs and screaming winds of the Southern Ocean en route to Melbourne. Leg 3 takes the fleet to Wellington, and a 48-hour stop before the second dive into frostbite territory on Leg 4, the rounding of Cape Horn and the dash to Rio de Janeiro. Next, the fleet heads for Baltimore and Annapolis, before sailing further north for a 48-hour stop in New York at the end of Leg 6. Leg 7 sees a high-speed transatlantic run to Portsmouth, from where the fleet begins a lap of the British Isles on Leg 8, concluding in the Dutch port of Rotterdam. The race ends with the Leg 9 sprint into Gothenburg. The only skipper to have won the race before is Paul Kayard, who leads Disney's entry, Pirates of the Caribbean. A winner 8 years ago aboard EF Language, he faces stiff opposition from 4 well-backed and better prepared campaigns. Kiwi Mike Sanderson leads the 2-boat Team ABN AMRO Challenge. ABN AMRO ONE is his, the senior boat, while Frenchman Sébastien Josse skippers ABN AMRO TWO, manned by a talented but less experienced younger crew. Denmark's Bauer Becking skippers Movistar, the Spanish entry, with more pre-race miles on the clock than anyone. As quick, potentially quicker, is Neil McDonald's Ericsson. Both skippers are race veterans but are leading their own campaigns from the beginning for the first time. Brazil 1 is the country's first Volvo entry and led by Torben Grael, the most successful Olympic sailor ever. It's dinghy sailors like Grael who are likely to benefit most from the race's new format. In addition to point-scoring gates on the 9 ocean-going legs, there will be short-course races for the first time at 7 of the stopover ports in between. These races account for 20% of the overall points.
Nice start, Tim.
In the first, off San Censo, Grael and navigator Adrian Cahalan, the race's only female sailor, have to settle for second place behind Ericsson. Paul Kayard's Pirates of the Caribbean rolls past Movistar to take third. At the back of the fleet, the 2 ABN AMRO boats. Mike Sanderson's in 6th spot and worryingly short of speed in the light air. The only boat with more problems than Sanderson seems to have is the 7th race entry, Premier Challenge. Delayed by lack of funds, the Australian boat misses the import race and looks like missing the start of the first leg as well. It's only when a new sponsor steps forward at the 11th hour that it can even hope to take part. But the boat is still failing to meet race regulations on several counts, and drastic measures are called for.
We've had an absolute shocker, actually. We got the new keel bulb and fin up to the aeroplane in Melbourne to fly it over here. We thought they were just going to be able to strap it down inside the plane, but they rejected it because they were worried about it moving inside the plane. So we've had to get to with the planer and the chainsaw and chop a few hundred kilos off the keel, off the bulb that we had. We obviously know we're starting well behind the 8 ball, initially, and the first leg's really just going to be sort of feeling our way, and obviously the import race we weren't even here for, so someone had to come last in that race. It might as well have been us.
A key feature of the new boats is the canting keel, which can be swung through an arc of 40 degrees to increase stability at high speeds. As the Volvo 70 begins to tack, the position of the keel is critical. As the boat turns into the wind, the keel is switched to the windward side to bring the boat upright. If the keel is canted to the wrong side, or fails, the righting effect is lost, with potentially disastrous results for the boat. Canting keels are not new, but they've never been used in a race as punishing as the Volvo. Taking part in the Volvo means spending time apart from friends and loved ones, but it can bring people together too. During the last race, Pirates of the Caribbean watch captain Freddie Loof met Maya Stowrider, team doctor of the D-Juice boat. 4 years on, they face the same challenges again, except that this time, they're on the same side.
What I've heard, in earlier days when it was called whitbread, they call it the marriage breaker. But it seems like now it's more a marriage maker.
If you look at the people in the last race who did really well, the top boats, they were all engaged, they were married, they had families, and you look down the result list and actually you had the guys there who didn't have the same family status.
The reason why I think this is working out well is that Fred is very good at letting it, that is a choice we make together. It's not like he's saying, I'm doing the Volvo. He says, should we do it? And we weren't planning on doing it at all until Paul Caillard called and Freddie said, this guy I want to sail for. We have been talking about the danger part of it, and he's promised he'll take extra care and hook in whenever it's needed and really think about what he has at home.
In addition to recent arrival, 4-month-old Max, the couple already have a 2-year-old daughter. Philippa looks like keeping her mother busy, which may be just as well because day-to-day contact with the boats during the race will be impossible.
That's the hard part, that you know you're there but you can't share the thoughts. You can't say, hey, Philippa did this today and Max is doing this, and I'm getting emotional. I think the hard part is going to say goodbye to them when they leave for the leg one now. It's with 2 kids, you're obviously feeling a bit more vulnerable if something should happen out there. And you know, especially with the new boats, there are challenges they haven't been before. And I would feel a little bit more comfortable if it was the old boats. But it's part of the game. They call it living life at the extreme, and I'm going to wear sunglasses when they leave.
Saying goodbye is never easy, not least before 3 grueling weeks of ocean racing.
Alrighty, little girl, just going to say goodbye. Cheers, mate.
In Vigo to watch the fleet leave, double Olympic gold medalist Shirley Robertson.
There's a great atmosphere here in Vigo today. The people have taken the Volvo Ocean Race to heart. 70,000 of them are lining the coast, and over 2,000 boats of all shapes and sizes are here to cheer the boats on.
3 cheers for Premier Challenge. Hip hip, hooray! Hip hip, hooray!
Paul Gayard congratulating the Australian Boat Premier Challenge, renamed Sunergy and Friends. They've worked all night to make the start line today, and even this morning had to recruit 2 new crew members. They're pleased to be here and pleased to be getting on with it. Well, we're coming up to the start now.
3, 2, 1, now.
And there it goes, the cannon fired by King Juan Carlos of Spain. And leading the start, Pirates of the Caribbean with the red bow. Great start by Paul Gayard. Well, Paul will be happy with that. He's got clear air, but there isn't much wind around. Well, Juggy, Justin Kluwer of Australia, sent all the way to the top of the mast. He's up there to look for breeze.
Okay, it's good this way, Paul.
Whichever boat gets the first puff will get away. And leading the fleet back through the spectator fleet is Ericsson. Bowman Tom Braidwood trying to communicate with skipper Neil MacDonald. But it looks like Pirates may have slipped into 3rd place. They're getting ready for another gear change. It's been hard the start of this race, lots of gear changes, lots going on. But leading the fleet out of Vigo, in 1st place, Ericsson, skippered by Brit Neil MacDonald. And in 2nd, the home favourite, Movistar, skippered by Bauer Becking. And bringing up the rear, Sunergy and Friends, but Grant Warrington, look, he's not worried about that. He's just pleased to finally have some time to eat his sandwich. Well, the action only just beginning. 6,400 miles to go and high winds forecast this evening. Next stop, Cape Town.
I know nobody can win the round the world race tonight, but you could lose it.
Leg 1 at last underway. The fleet runs into a big storm just hours after leaving Vigo.
About 2 meters deep, solid green water, I guess, came over the boat and took both of us out.
Just seemed to be underwater the whole time.
But with so much at stake, no one backs down. Boats and crew take a fearful battering.
Feels like we've been to hell and back.
The first night of the race, and already the Volvo Open 70s are in trouble.
You name it, in the last 36 hours we've had it.
Dawn breaks, and with it, the fleet. Pirates of the Caribbean abruptly changes course.
Presently we are making our way towards the coast of Portugal. Blowing 25 to 45 on deck, mostly over 30, 35. We heard some rattling and banging around the keel. On a better inspection, it became very evident that there was a lot of water coming in through the keel box. It was now full of water under high pressure, and it was very clear that we couldn't continue racing the boat. The guys are heartbroken. I honestly didn't think I'd be sitting here talking to a bloody camera by myself. Here I am.
A few hours later, and Movistar reports problems.
32 knots was the last number I saw on the speedo, and went over a couple of big sets of waves. It all went quiet for a split second where I think we were sort of free falling through the air, and basically landed on our nose.
I was in my bunk, just heard a loud bang. I thought the rig had come down.
It was just like a cannon shot that went off. Looking over the keel area, we'd done a sort of major structural breakage of the keel frames and shelves, so that's put us out of the race.
In Vigo, Movistar's shore crew regroups. After months of work preparing the boat, they're the ones picking up the pieces.
Basically, the ram shelf has collapsed on the starboard side, which has resulted in catastrophic failure or instability of the bulkhead.
In prospect now, an 8-hour drive through the night to rendezvous with the boat 700 kilometres away in Portugal. Elsewhere in the fleet, the heavy conditions are also taking their toll. Sonergy and friends have done well to make the start line, but by the end of the second day they have a damaged boom and are limping towards Madeira.
We're about 150 miles north of Madeira. We've got our shore crew meeting us there and then hopefully be back underway in sort of 6 to 10 hours. We're just hoping we don't lose more than about 400 miles by the time we get in here and back out on the track.
ABN AMRO 2 seems to weather the storm best of all, even though only 2 of Sebastian Joss's crew have competed in a Volvo Ocean Race before. For Gerd Jan Portman, spending the opening week in the eye of the storm proves a brutal introduction. He follows in the distinguished line of fearless bowmen who have braved life in the danger zone.
We have 12 sails on the boat, of which one is the mainsail, and all the other ones are obviously sails that we can move up and down, and my role is to make sure that can happen on the front of the boat. And the aim is to do this losing as little speed as possible. So we have different techniques in place where we can hoist one sail inside the other sail. So the new sail is hoisted and filled with wind and pulling the boat, and then the other one is taken down so we never slow down. There's a few dangers really. First of all is the big waves and the nature of the boat. The boat's really aggressive. It doesn't just go up and down, but it goes all over the place. So you have to really hold on. And the biggest danger is the water crashing over the deck. You know, the wave and the water wipes you out. So you always have to be clipped onto something, because if you start floating over the deck, you can hit things and it's really easy to strain and break legs and all sorts. It's kind of scary because it's so out of control.
It's ABN AMRO ONE that is in the most serious disarray. During a first night broach, Mike Sanderson's crew damage a sail, break a tiller arm, and smash a steering pedestal when a crewman is washed down the boat.
The hits just keep on coming.
On the second night, the boat even catches fire following a short circuit in a battery box. One empty fire extinguisher later, navigator Stan Honey painstakingly rewires the boat's electrics.
Stan was the man, no doubt about it.
Also damaged on the first night, Ericsson. They've shredded a spinnaker which went over the side, leaving crewman Richard Mason to try to retrieve a sheet now wrapped around the rudder.
Is it done? It's done, boys. Wait, we have to get him up first. Okay. It's up.
Yeah, ropes cut the back of the rudder. About this far in.
Yeah, it's pretty tough conditions. First 48 hours were windy and wet, and these boats are pretty brutal. The first night in particular, I think, was a bit of a shock to all of us. We kind of knew what to expect, but the heat of competition, you push a little bit harder, and we suddenly found ourselves certainly right in the heat of it. So nice now to be a little bit further south. We're down past the Canary Islands. Got some fantastic conditions up on deck. It's blowing around 20 knots, and the sun's come out and we're starting to dry the inside of the boat out. And I'm starting to look ahead towards the doldrums, which are only 1,000 miles away. And these boats, that's probably less than 3 days.
Ericsson back up to speed, but for Pirates of the Caribbean, the leg looks to be already over. The Black Pearl edges gratefully into Cascais in northern Portugal.
We had a very potentially grave situation. If that lid had come off, the boat would have sunk very, very quickly. We started to get all our safety gear, our suits and everything near the companionway and be ready for a worst-case situation.
Closer inspection reveals Kayard's boat has lost its keel fairing plates. A quick fix solution will be almost impossible. Further south, Movistar finally meets up with its road-weary shore crew in Portimao to assess the severity of its damage.
Hola. So here we are inside of the boat, and this is one of the main bulkheads, and as you probably can see over here, it's maybe difficult to see on the film, but basically it cracked from right over here all the way in there, so the whole bulkhead has collapsed. And then if you go to the other side, the ram shells are split right through the middle over here. and all along this bulkhead, and the same on the other side. So fundamentally you can say this side of the canting keel ram doesn't do anything anymore because it's not attached to the boat anymore, and it's basically the other side who brought us home.
Damage to dagger boards, keel fin and rudder indicate a major trauma. But neither Movistar nor Pirates of the Caribbean formally abandoned the leg. The points gained just for finishing could prove crucial later in the race. An uneasy standoff ensues.
Did a big rain squall in about 20 seconds. We're all going to get soaking wet, and we don't know what's going to happen after that.
As the fleet heads for the equator, the race presents the next major tactical challenge for the crews: how to cross the high-pressure system notorious for its unpredictable weather patterns.
We're here about 6 degrees north in the area that's known as the doldrums. Luckily we haven't had any light winds yet, but things are getting a little bit tense because if you just look to our left, there's a big thundercloud. Problem with these thunderclouds is that they might have a lot of wind on the front of them, but right behind them there's very little breeze at all, and having fought hard all night to get ourselves into second position ahead of Brazil 1, it would be a crying shame to end up in a patch of no breeze and slip back down to third again. So tense moments for the next few minutes.
Unlike previous years, the fleet's navigators will be working from a standard set of weather data provided by the race meteorologist. Among them will be Brazil 1's Adrienne Cahalan, the only female sailor in the entire fleet. Not only that, she's on a mainly Portuguese and Spanish-speaking boat.
This is probably one of the first teams I've ever sailed with for a long time in a different language.
Sí, seguro. Estaba un poquito desventado.
We're off in the southern hemisphere, that's nice. They've got a very sunny nature, and that's a lot similar to Australians. So being able to work with Torben Grail and Marcello and all these Brazilian Olympic sailors that are such good dinghy sailors, it's a really new type of environment, and when you do race for a living all the time you can get a bit bored and the challenges become fewer, but this is definitely a new one. I would not be interested in single-handed racing, maybe two-handed racing one time, but I'm not a single-handed sailor. I enjoy the team aspect, I enjoy being out there with people, and that's all part of it, you know, being able to talk about what's been going on.
In the dead of night, Sonergy and friends arrives in Madeira to fix its broken boom.
Some of these good boys. Well, here we are. Porto Santo. I thought I'd come here. Things you do in the middle of the night. Yeah, exactly. That's sort of, you wouldn't believe it, we found these very helpful people in Porto Santo, just north of Madeira.
So what time did you have to get up this morning, Miguel, to come and help us out?
Well, we just arrived at the harbour. It was 11:30 yesterday night, local time. Yeah. And you just arrived at 3.
Yeah? Have you been waiting, drinking some coffee and waiting for it?
And here we are fixing the boom. We've almost got the resin off our fingers, but we took the boom off and flew our shore crew down with some resin and some Sparbon, and put a few bits of carbon C plate in, wrapped the end with carbon. They're just trimming it up now, as you can see, and we're just going to put the reefing jammers back in and put it all back together, and we're hoping to be out of here in probably about another hour and a half. So all in all, probably about a 5-hour stopover, which is pretty good. We're pretty happy with that.
Up at the front, the fleet seems to traverse the doldrums without breaking stride. Leader ABN AMRO ONE prepares a King Neptune ceremony as it crosses the equator just 8 days after leaving Vigo. All too soon for race first-timer Rob Greenhalgh.
Has decided to order a symbolic donation for you. Your grey hair, symbol of this group. Your right hemisphere will symbolize the north. Your left hemisphere will symbolize the south.
Hey! Cape of Good Hope, Cape Horn. He's got a few to go, but just do the first hurdle.
The drama ashore continues. Such is the extent of the damage Movistar sustained in the opening hours of the race that the boat has had to be shipped from Portugal to South Africa in time for the next import race on December the 26th. Vanguard's Black Pearl is already there, transported in the hold of a huge Antonov aircraft. Both teams can still win the race if they gain enough points in the more heavily weighted later legs, but first they have to regroup and repair quickly. This is a battle against the clock neither team had envisaged entering. With the equator crossed, the fleet continues its path to the island of Fernando de Noronha, the first point-scoring opportunity of the leg. It's the first of 6 scoring gates on the race circuit as a whole. While 7 points go to the winners of the leg, half as many again are up for grabs at Fernando. It's a delighted Mike Sanderson who reaches the scoring gate first to grab the maximum 3.5 on offer.
We've been really happy with the performance. Stan's done a fantastic job getting us in the right part of the world, and sure enough we're here first with a healthy 100-odd mile lead.
The first to enjoy Fernando in daylight is Ericsson, who approached the mark 10 hours behind the leaders. Just 30 minutes behind them is Brazil One, making a return to what is effectively home waters. Less than 15 minutes behind the Brazilian boat, and in slightly wistful mood, ABN AMRO TWO.
Here we are going past Fernando de Noronha. Unfortunately, we're down in 4th position. We're up in 2nd yesterday, and we're fighting hard to get the points for 2nd place, as this is a scoring gate, but sadly it was not to be. This is the last bit of land we'll see for another 3,000 miles, so we've enjoyed it while we could. Now it's back to the hard work of ocean racing.
We're about to initiate 2 virgins into the realm of King Neptune. And there we are, we've crossed the equator.
Southern Hemisphere.
Here we are in the court of King Neptune.
Hundreds of miles behind the leaders, but at least back on track after its stop in Madeira, Sonergy and friends. With the equator crossed, a new sponsor confirmed and their participation in leg 2 assured, spirits are high.
Fraser, what are you most looking forward to in Cape Town?
My girl.
Dixie?
A nice cold beer.
Grant?
A shave, a shower, a shampoo, and maybe a little kiss on the pecker with my wife, yeah.
For the 4 boats at the front of the fleet, the problem is how best to skirt the large area of high pressure barring their path to Cape Town. Get it wrong here, and the penalties are severe. Things are already pretty tense aboard Ericsson. 2nd at the island of Fernando de Noronha, they're now trailing Brazil One and ABN AMRO TWO.
We're getting down towards the big South Atlantic high now. We've been sailing due south, which seems a little odd when the finish line at Cape Town is about 30 or 40 degrees or more to the left. So we have to get down around the bottom of this high pressure system. We've been waiting for the wind to lift, and it's started to do so now. So it's sweltering conditions still, and pretty high stress decision making.
ABN AMRO ONE still leads the dive south, but not by much. Navigator Adrienne Cahalan's more easterly course aboard Brazil One appears to be paying dividends. But illness has deprived the Brazilian boat of one of its key crewmen. Marcelo Ferreira picks up a bug which keeps him down below for the best part of 7 days. His strength and good humour are sorely missed. The leg is at a delicate stage. Brazil One and ABN AMRO One are locked in a battle of wills. ABN AMRO TWO not far behind. Day and night the drive south is relentless. Fortunately for Mike Sanderson's crew, there's a 24-hour food outlet on board.
Hi, I'm Rob on ABN AMRO ONE, and welcome to Black Betty's Diner. Fresh water is made from a desalination unit, which takes water from the sea and turns it into fresh water. So it tastes all right, it's not great. It's got no minerals in, so we need to take additional minerals and vitamins to make up for that. And what we do is we cook all the food together, and the food stays hot in that pot for about 4 hours, so people can eat it whenever they like. This is just the sort of problem we've got to deal with. Cut open the bag. There we go. In it goes. Woo. It's getting pretty hot down here now. Oh. Give it a good stir. And look at that, it's beginning to look pretty good in there now. Got some beans by the looks of things, a bit of carrot, some corn, and some chunks of beef, and some gravy. So along with mashed potato, that should be pretty good.
Oh, nice! The South Atlantic high now behind them, the fleet careers back towards Cape Town. Seb Joss's crew runs hottest, clocking up 533 miles in 24 hours to break the monohull speed record set in training by Movistar.
I got the water on me. I'm a navigator, I'm not supposed to get wet.
Their average speed, 22 knots. They're going like a train. Some 60 miles ahead, there's even better news on the senior boat. In a similar 24-hour period, Mike Sanderson's men notched 538 miles.
Just thought you might like to know that we've just broken the 24-hour record.
You'll be beautiful.
12 hours later, Sanderson's men crashed through their own mark, this time raising the bar to 546 miles to set the Gantt time 24-hour record run for the Volvo Ocean Race. All this in winds of less than 30 knots, and the Southern Ocean still to come. In the hours that follow, ABN AMRO ONE finds the strongest winds first, reeling off huge daily mileages en route for Cape Town and pulling away from its sister boat. Desperately trying to stay in touch is Brazil ONE in third. The boat with the biggest problem is Ericsson.
We're sailing along at about 20 knots of wind, and the keel was fully canted to windward, and it's ended up completely to the wrong side of the boat. So pretty hairy situation just for a few minutes, and we're just trying to get under control now. We've got the keel locked in the middle, but we're going about a third the speed we should be. Clearly we're still in the race, but we've got to make sure that the Australians don't catch us. They're effectively double the distance that we are from the finish. You know, by a very quick calculation there, we've got to make sure we do at least half their speed. So we're very much racing there, and it's incredibly important that we finish to get our points. So those are the two priorities at the moment.
Hurtling along in second place and still trying to catch their senior colleagues now more than 100 miles in front of them are ABN AMRO TWO. They're also being escorted on the last few miles to Cape Town.
Oh, nice. This is awesome. Send it, boys. This is award-winning. What you feeling now? What are you thinking about?
Just got all the sums going through my head. 1,000 miles to go. Brazil's 100 miles behind. Means they've got to go 10% quicker. And as we get closer, they have to go quicker and quicker again. So every 6 hours, keen and eager to see the position report. So we've just pretty much got to get the boat there in one piece, and touch wood, let's hope we get there in a second.
Winds can die quickly in the shadow of Table Mountain. Places could still change, even after 6,000 nautical miles. Brazil ONE in third, ABN AMRO TWO in second, but it's the senior boat that's leading the fleet home. After 19 days of incident-packed, high-octane ocean racing, Mike Sanderson's ABN AMRO ONE is the first of the remaining 5 boats to emerge from the chaos and carnage of the Atlantic. Last in San Censo, but first into Cape Town.
It's huge. It really is huge, you know. The guys did an amazing job, and the boat was just on fire. You know, they threw everything at us we could. We battled against weather, and we broke the boat on the first night, and we had a fire on board, and we had everything.
Very happy to reach the dock, because out there it's so hard, and we're very tired, and we've been shaken up quite a lot, so very, very happy to be here.
Oh, it's fabulous. Well, what a feeling. It's like, it's not just the last 3 weeks, it's the last year's worth of work. It just seems to have all come together, and fantastic to get a result like this. be honest with you, I almost feel like I've just done a Southern Ocean leg on these things. They're wet and wild machines. Everything is just fast and furious. There's not a moment when it doesn't feel like you're doing 50 knots. It's just crazy.
Arriving just a few hours later, Seb Joss's young crew on ABN AMRO 2.
Someone said you guys should win the Seamanship Award, so you got to be kidding me. Just about killed us all. Nice work on you, boys.
Definitely the most stressful part was the last 2 hours. Knowing that Brazil was out there doing 22 knots or something towards us was making me quite nervous, I have to say.
I've never seen so much water in my life than on this boat. And I'm just always soaking wet. I got new boots and they were wet. They were moving. They were wet after night one, and I've had wet feet for 19 days, so can't wait to take them off.
While the first crews home leave the quayside in pursuit of warm baths and dry beds, the race goes on. At the rear of the pack, the beleaguered Synergy and friends continue on their path to Cape Town.
Here we got a little bit of ocean racing athletics. 2 turns and a half twist.
Okay, Grant, we've finally got some conditions here that we can run hard in. This is what we're out here for, eh?
Yeah, this is the bit that was on the brochure, actually. We haven't had it for at all for the whole leg, but wow, this is pretty awesome. Got 1,700 miles of runway and 30 knots, little spinnaker up, staysail on a reef in the mainsail. We're just sitting on 25s, 30 knots, just absolutely awesome.
In Cape Town, meanwhile, Brazil 1 finishes leg 1 in 3rd position to notch their 3rd podium placing in the 3-point scoring opportunity so far. But the smiles are short-lived. Just days afterwards, navigator Adrian Cahalan is sacked. Not being able to speak Portuguese and her comparative lack of strength are cited as the reasons behind her dismissal.
These boats are a handful, but I'm not afraid of them. You know, it's not that I felt that the race was too hard. And so it is very disappointing for me. I do feel that, you know, I've put a lot of effort into what I'm not going to get. Maybe they're unrealistic in their expectations because, you know, the Southern Ocean leg comes up in 2 weeks. Nobody's perfect. Every other boat's got different things to deal with. And because you've got such a small crew of 10 people, you do have to sort of compromise on different things, you know, because there are some skills that are high priority and there are some skills that you can, oh, well, maybe we'll just have to do without that. And yeah, maybe it's their lack of experience that they haven't seen the priorities yet, and perhaps when they get in the Southern Ocean they might.
So after leg 1 and 1 in-port race, it's ABN AMRO ONE that is leading the fleet. Ericsson, who finished leg 1 in 4th spot, shares 2nd spot with Brazil 1 on 10.5 points. In 3rd, ABN AMRO 2 with 9.5 points, while Synergy and Friends' eventual 5th place finish is enough to eclipse both Pirates of the Caribbean and Movistar.
There we are. Girl never travels light.
So Brazil 1 are looking for a new navigator. Adrian Cahalan leaves for the airport, but hers won't be the only departure. Cape Town, where after withdrawing from leg 1 with structural damage, both Pirates of the Caribbean and Movistar are still racing the clock to be ready for the next in-port event on December the 26th. A week later, they and the rest of the fleet head out into the screaming winds and towering seas of the Southern Ocean on leg 2. But one member of Paul Cayard's original crew on Pirates of the Caribbean will not be on board. After just a few days of competitive sailing on the Black Pearl, watch Captain Freddie Luth withdraws from the race, citing personal family reasons. Brazil 1's former navigator, Adrian Cahalan, meanwhile, is to be replaced by Marcel van Triest, a veteran of 3 previous races. All eyes now turn to the bay in the shadow of Table Mountain as Cape Town makes ready to host the Boxing Day in-port race.
Big day.
With winds well in excess of 20 knots expected, this high-speed charge around the bay promises to be spectacular. And so it proves. In winds gathering in strength, and with just 11 crewmen on board to keep the boats on the rails, there are knockdowns and breakages aplenty. Paul Kayart's pirates wipe out on every lap of the course. Movistar too broaches at the second mark. The pirates even get their boom caught on a runner. Ericsson dices with Movistar, both crews pushing the boats to their limits. ABN AMRO ONE storms on after taking the lead from the off, but there are problems for Ericsson. Neil MacDonald's crew break a reef line. Not an easy fix in gusts of 40 knots. Ericsson sails off in the opposite direction, the boom thrashing around in the wind. Movistar sails past Ericsson. Bauerbecking's crew desperate to make up some lost ground after their withdrawal from leg one. Pirates of the Caribbean fight back into second place, but are again in trouble. A wayward spinnaker flying like a flag. Kayart's crew desperately trying to retrieve the situation. The race committee shortens the race. ABN AMRO ONE even easing off slightly before moving up to take line honours and the 3.5 points for victory. Mike Sanderson is ecstatic. Movistar comes up for second place in a welcome return to form for Bauerbecking and his crew. Finally back on track. The battle for third and fourth is tight, with ABN AMRO 2 taking on the speed and savvy of Torben Grail's Brazil 1. In the end, it's Seb Joss's young crew who prevail. Third place for the young guns. Brazil 1 approached the line to finish fourth. Behind them, Pirates in fifth. A day of great drama for the fleet and of great success for ABN AMRO ONE. So Mike Sanderson and his crew receive more applause and yet another trophy. They now lead Brazil 1 by 2.5 points overall and their junior boat by 3. Ericsson are on 11.5 points, Movistar 6, with ING Real Estate Brunel, the renamed Sunergy and Friends, joint last on 5 points with Pirates of the Caribbean. Next up, it's the Southern Ocean. The second leg of the race takes the fleet through 6,000 miles of some of the most hostile seas on the planet.
The challenge is enormous. It is the best sailing in the world. You know, you may break a world record, and that's where you do it. Have you prepared the boat right? Have you got the right sails for it? Have you got the right crew for it? Can you handle it as a team and come out first? We certainly hope we can.
For sailing and for sailing fast, it's one of the best places you can be because the waves are quite long. The breeze is steady. It's not too much, it's not too little, but it's a perfect wind speed the whole time, so you can go very, very, very fast.
The thing for me is always the speed, just how fast the boats go and how much fun it is sailing these boats downwind and breeze.
It's fantastic sailing. I mean, there's times you're just roaring down the fronts of these waves. You're just like, oh, this is crazy. Brilliant. You hear guys whooping for joy, probably because we just survived it.
Southern Ocean has no bottom mark, so we just keep going downwind and have a great time.
Guys, we're going to have to get the port board up.
After a slow and frustrating start to the second leg in light airs, the fleet clears Cape Point before picking up speed. The crews are now searching for the strong westerlies that will sweep them towards Melbourne. Movistar's northerly route takes everyone by surprise, but it's not long before there's an even bigger shock. For the second leg in a row, Ericsson's canting keel fails and the boat limps towards land. This time, it's a piston rod that's snapped.
You can have great days and absolutely terrible days. We managed to nurse the boat in the last leg, but as you can see with the failure that we've got there today, there's not going to be any nursing of that at all. Big risk is that we could snap the other one, so we're sailing very carefully now under storm jib and 3-reef main, taking it slowly. Get her in one piece and try and unravel the puzzle.
It's a long way down.
It's not long before the news reaches the rest of the fleet.
Pretty disappointing news this morning to find out that Ericsson had to withdraw. We had some awesome sailing yesterday upwind with Pirates and Ericsson. We probably had about an 8 or 9 mile lead on them as it got dark last night.
Brazil 1 has bigger concerns. When cracks appear in the deck, Torben Grael's crew have to assess the damage. Heading for land proves the only option.
It broke the first roll. Torben's first roll. Don't break the boat.
The damage is quite big. I think it's basically we have delaminated the deck from the gunnel, the side of the boat, all the way into the center of the boat, and it's about 45 centimeters wide, so it's a very critical place on the boat, so it's difficult to repair it. It's a big damage.
As an emergency measure to get them to safety, the deck has to be buttressed with spare sail battens. Having to stop racing is a fate that has already befallen the Black Pearl's crew on leg 1. So far, repairs on leg 2 have been minor, not major.
Got my business suit on, 8 o'clock in the morning. Chauffeur's driving the limo to work. Got a custom paint job on this limo. We got ABN 2 in sight out here 3 miles away. We got a couple of our friends heading for the dock. We know that feeling well. It's not a good one. Throttling back on the first night looks like a really good move. It was really rough that night, and the boat was slamming hard, and luckily we kept the Black Pearl in one piece.
Movistar, meanwhile, holds on hard to the north and to a slender lead. Navigator Andrew Cape has taken a gamble, and the results will not be long in coming.
The situation is we're in a very scary position right now. 100 miles away from the opposition. Taking a small gamble to try and make a gain, and the next 24 hours we'll see if that's worked out or not. Hopes are high, but really it's in the hands of the gods.
Stuart Bannatyne is well and truly on tenterhooks. A world away in New Zealand, wife Amanda is about to have the couple's 3rd child. Hardly the ideal situation, but an occupational hazard for the wife of an ocean sailor.
I married that lifestyle. I've been married 7 years to Stu, and I knew that going into it, I knew what to expect. So I can't really turn around and say to him, look, I think you should give up your career. So I went into the marriage knowing that. Stu told me he wouldn't give up sailing, so if I wanted to marry him, that was the conditions.
A leg 2 appointment with the Southern Ocean will see Movistar's watch captain miss out on the arrival of his 3rd child. And this year, the anxieties for both crews and families are perhaps greater than ever.
It's probably more difficult for the wives and families this time round with the Volvo 70s than in previous editions of this race, just because of the accidents, the damage that's happened to some of these boats so far. The wives get a little more concerned about whether these boats are actually seaworthy.
Our Stu skipper this time is very much a family man, and he has said to the guys they can email off as much as they like and phone calls. So Stu normally rings about once a week.
When I'm on watch on the boat, I'm basically concentrating on sailing the boat, and I do that 4 hours on, 4 hours off. But when I'm off watch, I'll be lying in my bunk thinking, hope everything's going okay,
We thought about giving him a code, because otherwise the navigator will know before him, because we don't know what sex it is, and the navigator, KP, will know before him what he's had, and Stu will be so tired that he won't even wake up.
Neil MacDonald's Ericsson finally hits land. It's the ram system which moves the canting keel that has again let them down.
Got a replacement ram, but it's not exactly the same as the ram we race with. The racing rams are titanium and the replacement ones are steel, and they're slightly different setups, so we're seeing what the possibilities are of swapping it out, and then if that is possible, then perhaps we can carry on. It's really gut-wrenching. The boat's perfect, we were going fast, you know, it's just we've had a gut full of these ram problems. The other teams are running exactly the same rams as us. We've sailed 10, 15,000 miles before this with no problem, and then bam, you know, that happens. So yeah, you can imagine it's not very good. We've got to fight on, and we will, but it's a bit of a low ebb at the moment.
Back on the track, Movistar's gamble has failed. Bauer Becking's men now find themselves in 4th place and in lighter winds. And there's no news yet from home for Stuart Bannatyne. The new leader is ABN AMRO ONE, some 40 miles ahead of them. But there's no gain without pain.
Got a bit of a headache?
It's a bit sore.
Yeah.
An accident on the foredeck brings Tony Mutter into A&E. The doctor on duty, Jan Dekker.
We're going to put some steri strips, which is basically a little sticky strip, and to make sure they don't come off, we'll laminate them with a bit of super glue. Cover the whole lot with this duoderm, which is like some plastic breathable skin, and it should be good to go.
You see the rust on that? That's in our medical box.
For the boats chasing ABN AMRO ONE, the situation is about to take a turn for the worse.
Tricky situation with the front coming through, getting a bit complex. Got to find a way through, and hopefully you don't get overtaken by the front, otherwise we'll be in the poo.
In the early hours of day 6, the new weather system duly arrives, rolling over the chasing boats, causing big losses. But ABN AMRO ONE finds new breeze. Suddenly, the black boat is away. Brazil 1, meanwhile, approaches Port Elizabeth, South Africa, having looked hard at their choices en route.
In Port Elizabeth, we have two options. We can repair the boat there, and then we can go out again and join the race and sail the boat to Melbourne, or we can put the boat on a ship. So the only reason to sail is obviously to collect some points. It depends if Ericsson is also sailing, and it depends how many other boats are going to have technical problems. So if more boats will break down, it's you can collect some points.
The Brazil 1 shore crew prepares to make a quick start on repairing the damage. Skipper Torben Grael and his team retire to a more comfortable location as they wait for Ericsson to make their next move. With the fleet sailing so far north compared to the Southern Ocean of more recent races, the screaming winds and icebergs the leg is famous for have so far been avoided.
You send us down too far. We're going to die if we crash into that.
The reason for the fleet's northerly course are the ice gates. The first pair lies along the line of 42 degrees south and extends some 400 miles. Boats must either pass above the line completely or pass north of it at some stage.
We've put ice gates on the leg to keep the boats from going deep south into the ice. We've got ice reports and surveys from satellites, so we know approximately where the ice is. We can't say for certain exactly where all the ice is, and we can only pick up icebergs bigger than 75 metres square, which is still a lot of ice. So having seen the results of that survey, we've then determined the best place to put the gates to make sure that the boats don't see any or as little as possible. Simple as that.
Even with the ice gates in place, the dangers of sailing in the Southern Ocean can only be reduced so far. In the 1990 race, then the Whitbread, Martella lost her keel and Merit Cup had to go to her rescue. 4 years later, it was Brooksfield's turn. Her crew left bailing frantically for their lives. Ex-New Zealand Endeavour crewman Stuart Bannatyne was on the boat coordinating the rescue.
The Brooksfield incident was deep in the Southern Ocean, worst conditions it can get. It happened that we were the duty boat running the roll call and Brooksfield didn't report in. We honestly thought that they'd gone down. We had heard nothing from them. Grant Dalton and Mike Quilter, our navigator, coordinated an effort from the other boats that were near them. There was 60 knots of wind, it was cold, wet, miserable. Nobody wanted to turn around and go back upwind in those conditions, but there was no hesitation from the skippers and the boats turned around, and preservation of life is still the #1 thing.
Often the only help available will be self-help. Every crewman has attended a compulsory sea survival course to practice emergency drills.
It's something that you want to know that you have practiced and that you have seen the inside of a life raft, even though it's inside the pool, and you have physically righted one and you have swum underneath it and done all those bits and pieces, because, you know, if the day comes when you have to do it, it will be that little bit easier. Probably there is more chance of us getting in a life raft in this Volvo than there ever has been before.
Whatever the thoughts in the back of his mind, Mike Sanderson shows no sign of relenting on ABN AMRO ONE. His Leg 2 lead now well over 300 nautical miles. The first scoring waypoint of the leg is fast approaching. The nearest boat is now ABN AMRO 2. Seb Joss's crew are moving into perfect speed sailing conditions. The 24-hour speed record of 546 nautical miles set by their senior colleagues could soon be under threat. It's Pirates of the Caribbean who are now in third after stalling suddenly in a patch of light air. Worse, Kayard's boat has reported a problem, is slowing, and is in danger of being overtaken by Movistar. On ING Real Estate Brunel, doom and gloom. After registering some impressive 24-hour mileages, Grant Warrington's boat has fallen off the back of the latest weather system and is languishing over 750 miles behind the leaders. Warrington's predicament gets a lot worse when the mast track breaks and the headboard car falls off. Now he's unable to use the mainsail properly.
Well, it's been a really tough day, and we just should be smarter. At the end of the day, we have specific people for specific jobs on this boat. One guy's supposed to be a mast builder. He was in charge of this right from day one, and he it up completely, and I'm absolutely livid about it. What can you do about it now? We just wasted 400 miles, and we're never going to catch it back.
There are contrasting fortunes for the boats in South Africa. Ericsson is forced to pull out of the leg altogether and has to ship the boat to Melbourne. But after replacing the delaminated sections of the deck, Brazil 1 is back on the track. Time is not on their side. Even if they finish the leg on schedule, picking up 4 points en route, they will have just 4 days to prepare the boat for the Melbourne import race on February the 4th. Up at the front, ABN AMRO ONE is the first to reach the Kerguelen Islands scoring waypoint at 70 degrees east, notching the maximum 3.5 points on offer. Next through is ABN AMRO 2, followed by the Pirates of the Caribbean and Movistar. So, after the disappointments of Leg 1, Bauer Becking and Paul Kayard are again putting points on the board in 5th and 6th positions overall. No points for Ericsson this leg. Brazil 1 looking to salvage what they can. At the top, Mike Sanderson's men have increased their overall lead over their junior boat by 0.5 point to 3.5. But the fleet is barely halfway through the leg. At last, something to celebrate aboard Movistar. Good news in the shape of Felicity Bannatyne, daughter number 3 for Stuart and Amanda.
It wasn't until about a couple of hours after she was born that we could actually use the mobile phones when I was back up on the ward, and I just rang straight to the boat and got him. He was in his bunk.
Got Capey shaking me going, Stu, telephone. So I was lying in my bunk, he handed me the phone. Amanda was there and we had a bit of a chat. She let me know that everything went well and we had yet another baby girl, which obviously I'm very happy about. And Amanda as well, and Felicity is very well too, so we're all very happy. So here's a toast to Felicity.
Felicity! Leg 2, day 9, and ABN AMRO 2 are in hot pursuit of their sister boat, the race leaders and fastest monohull in the world.
Unleash the fury!
Overnight, the westerlies pick up. Big, strong, consistent. Record-setting conditions, but will they last?
We've been averaging 24 knots for the last 4 or 5 hours. So we're looking good for the 24-hour record.
Gnarly out here, man.
Day 10, 7:10 a.m. Seb Joss's crew notch 546 miles for the preceding 24 hours. ABN AMRO ONE's mark is equal. "40 minutes later, the record is broken. Question is, by how much?
550 miles in a white boat! Yeah! 550 globe! Rock and roll! Oh man, this is just absolutely gnarly. It's what we came for, man. This is good stuff. Whew.
In recent years, the Volvo Ocean Race has become synonymous with speed, even if earlier races were more about survival. Taberley's Penduic 6 covers 305 nautical miles in the first ever event back in 1973. A mark not radically improved until Peter Blake's Steinlager 2 notches 343 miles in 89.90. Later, the same race, the Maxi Fortuna Extra Light clocks over 400 miles to raise the bar dramatically. In 93-94, the new class of Whitbread 60s takes up the challenge. Laurie Smith's Intrum Justicia and Ross Field's Yamaha locking horns in a duel eventually settle when Smith logs 428 miles. Smith raises the stakes again 4 years later with 449 miles on Silk Cut. Gunnar Krantz breaks new ground on SEB with 460 miles in the Southern Ocean in the last race, only for John Kostecki's Ilbrook to steal his thunder with 481 on the transatlantic dash to La Rochelle. 4 years later, a new breed of boat, a host of new records. Movistar notched 530 in training. ABN AMRO ONE's 546 is tops on leg 1. Now the young guns crack 550 on leg 2. But how much higher can they go? 555? 560? It's another 8 hours before winds finally back off. The fastest Southern Ocean sleigh ride of all time is over. The new Gantt time 24-hour record run, 563 miles. And it's only leg 2. As the fleet head towards the second scoring gate at Eclipse Island off Western Australia, it's ABN AMRO ONE who continue to lead from ABN AMRO 2, with Movistar playing catch-up in third. Pirates of the Caribbean are experiencing problems with their keel, while ING Real Estate Brunel and Brazil One bring up the rear. The crew on ING Real Estate Brunel remain upbeat despite the threatened end to their campaign from lack of sponsorship. There's much amusement on board after a magazine story in Australia likened crew member Adam Hawkins to a certain secret agent, following his daring underwater exploits to retrieve an errant sail.
Overnight we've heard that we've got one of our crew members being renamed James Bond.
Yeah, I just rang the bride and she said there was an article a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago now.
For his hero-like behaviours in the Southern Ocean. Quite funny, really. Considering we call him Chicken Hawk.
So I'm copping a bit of flack from the boys here. Probably shouldn't have told them, really. It wasn't the smartest move.
If you've looked around the boat today, there's spring in everybody's step. We're just so amped today. We're taking out miles on ABN ONE since we learnt that we have James on board. And mate, we're going straight to the leaderboard. Don't you worry about that.
Where's the gun, Hawk? Where's the gun?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Street Fighter. Happy birthday to you. Woohoo! And many more.
1-year-old.
Yeah.
The young guns on ABN AMRO 2 are still enjoying their moment of glory, capturing the Gantt 24-hour monohull record. But below decks, George Pete has made an unusual discovery.
It's 7:15 in the morning. It's daylight because we're sailing east. And frequently there have been smells and disturbances somewhat similar to those of a hamster on board. You crawl into a bunk lately and it smells like the cedar chips and rooted cage of a hamster. So let's delve into the back and see what we can find. Lots of wet articles hanging around this den. Let's see what we got here. We got boots, lots of dripping articles hanging. Uh-oh. Look at. Smell that? That's the smell of cedar chips. Ooh, more wet articles, some damp chamois. Look, it's a large male. It's a large male. Even a drinking bottle. Hamsters don't stray far from their water sources.
As ABN AMRO ONE enter a high-pressure zone and struggle to find wind, ABN AMRO 2 simply eats up their lead. Within a matter of days, a gap of nearly 400 miles is down to just 16. Mike Sanderson's crew, however, are still first to reach the Eclipse Island scoring gate off the coast of Western Australia. And just over an hour later, Sebastian Joss's ABN AMRO 2 also reached the same mark. Soon after passing the scoring gate in third place, Movistar heads for nearby Albany to assess a keel hydraulics problem. After withdrawing from the first leg with damage to the hull, the race isn't going to plan for the Spanish entry. There's an urgency to get Movistar back in the race as the crew rely on local knowledge.
I got a call yesterday about midday, Sunday afternoon, from the Movistar guys, looking for some diesel and some degreaser and some pretty specific hydraulic oil for the hydraulic rams on the keel. And it took me all afternoon to try and find what they were looking for, and hopefully they've got the right stuff.
You're right. This rope was just wrapped around the canard.
Oh, okay. So nothing too serious.
No.
As darkness falls, the extent of Movistar's damage soon becomes clear.
Right now, we're trying to repair the broken ram. There's an end plate on which keeps the piston rod basically in place, and all the bolts have sheared off, so the oil was just streaming out. So basically, we had 2 litres of olive oil who brought us in. We put it in the reservoir, and that kept the boat basically going.
This fleet of Volvo 70s aren't alone on the Southern Ocean. The crew of ING Real Estate Brunel are reminded they are sharing the waters with those more accustomed to the harsh environment.
We're back on the environmental ward. Not only the albatrosses are by abundance, but the whales are too. Fantastic.
And those on Pirates of the Caribbean soon get a very close look at one of the many sharks that call the Southern Ocean home.
He's still not moving. Okay, he's gone. There he goes, little fella. I hope you're okay. Didn't look too good.
Having withdrawn from the first leg with keel issues, Paul Cayard's boat now has further concerns and pulls into Albany just hours after Movistar has moved on.
Just a few hours from Eclipse Island, we lost our port ram when it broke one of our rams, so we had to tuck in here and get on our way.
Well, immediately I called the design office in the United States, and during the night they designed us a solid fixed piece of metal that we're planning on installing to just lock the keel on the center line so that we can get the boat to Melbourne as quickly as possible and, you know, start the repair process. We had most of the materials here except one piece of high tensile strength that we had to get from Perth. And so that's being flown up here, and we'll be here around 3 this afternoon. Then Wallace Machining will have to machine that part and put it with the rest of the stuff that they're fabricating now. And, you know, cross our fingers, I'd like to leave here by midnight for Melbourne.
But Cayard soon finds his stay in Albany will be longer than he'd hoped.
Sonia Paul from Pirates of the Caribbean. Well, not too good, because I got this piece of bar that you told me was 300 long. Yeah, well, it's 250. No, I'm not kidding. It's not good at all. Nobody checked it? What are we gonna do about that? We spent $800 on an airplane to get it down here. Okay, Sonia.
With difficulty, the new component is loaded on board, but it doesn't stay there very long.
What was wrong? The drawing was wrong. Therefore, it doesn't fit. Quite simple. Someone who made the hydraulic rams and then someone who built the boat might not have had the same plan, and that's what it looks like because the actual carbon fibre on the boat looks different to what it should be. So someone's made a modification and most should be not told the engineers who have made the drawings for the emergency repair. Therefore, nothing fits.
Can you fix it?
Yes. Suck it and see, as we say. And in the meantime, my wife will get angry because I'm at home. Did you get that?
It's not until just before dawn that the final version of the component is ready to be fitted.
We good on the bow? Let's let the bow go first.
Cayard and the Pirates are finally on their way. On the water, ABN AMRO ONE is just a few hundred miles from the Leg 2 finish, with ABN AMRO TWO in hot pursuit. After their Albany pit stop, Movistar are back in the race, as are Pirates of the Caribbean. ING Real Estate Brunel is the back marker. After 5 days in Port Elizabeth repairing a delaminated deck, Brazil One returns to the racetrack desperate to make up for lost time. They face the prospect of just a 4-day turnaround to make the Melbourne import race. Eight days into the leg, still 1,300 miles from Eclipse Island, disaster strikes. In 18 knots of breeze, a fitting failure brings down the mast, shattered in 3 places. For the second time in the leg, Torben Grail's plans are literally in tatters. He and his crew decide to recover what is left, erect a jury rig, and for the time being, head for the scoring gate at Eclipse Island to salvage what points they can.
$550 miles in a white boat! Yeah!
After clocking 563 miles in 24 hours to set a new monohull speed record a week ago, second place ABN AMRO 2 is hard on the heels of its senior boat, now less than 50 miles ahead. On ABN AMRO ONE, Mike Sanderson's crew is only too aware of its vulnerability. Sanderson and navigator Stan Honey watched as their lead was slashed in light airs on the approach to Eclipse a few days earlier, and more light and variable winds are forecast. 150 miles back in third place, its keel working for now at least, Movistar.
But actually today is the first day that we're happy again because the breeze has gone up, the speaker is up, and the keel is working well as well, so that's all the good news.
Like Movistar, Pirates have been suffering repeated failures of its canting keel, now locked in the central position. But at least they're on their way again after a stop to try to rectify the problem in Albany. And that's good enough for the Australians on board.
Coming back to Australia is always a good time for me, you know, it's my home. Too right, mate, I love the place.
Meanwhile, in Melbourne, the preparations for the fleet's arrival are reaching a climax after 20 months. The hosts are constructing a race village which will house sponsors and spectators as well as the crews. And the finish in Melbourne looks like it's going to be tighter than anyone could have predicted. After opting to head inshore in search of a sea breeze on the approach to the finish, ABN AMRO ONE has slowed to just 6 knots. ABN AMRO 2 has twice as much wind and twice the boat speed. If the junior boat continues to gain ground at its current rate, the 2 boats will be in sight of each other at the heads, the entrance to Melbourne's Port Phillip Bay.
We've sort of got some pretty tricky stuff going on here at the moment. We're pretty fortunate to have the sea breeze, and if it can drag us all the way through till the early hours of the evening, if you like, then everything's a bonus. So touching our famous bit of wood here in the nav station of Black Betty, that's us between now and getting in. We basically have no idea when we'll get in. It totally depends what this sea breeze and or then land breeze does for us over the next 24 hours, but we can only assume it's during the daylight hours of tomorrow.
Still without some of their electronics after a small fire earlier in the leg, Seb Joss's crew cut Sanderson's lead from 49 miles to 35 in just 3 hours. After some 6,000 nautical miles of ocean racing, leg 2 looks like being decided in the last 100. After a sleepless night in which their junior rivals cut their lead by another 10 miles, ABN AMRO ONE at last finds some breeze inside Port Phillip Bay.
We're not finished yet. We're nearly finished. It could be a day, judging by this race.
Despite the navigator's doubts, Mike Sanderson's ABN AMRO ONE crosses the finish line off Williamstown to win leg 2, 18 days and 22 hours after leaving Cape Town. After their leg 1 and Cape Town import race triumphs, it's their 3rd straight win. But it's come at a cost to the skipper's strength and sanity.
It's been most intense 3 weeks of yachting in my life, I'd have to say. It was just full on, unbelievably full on. It was one thing to the next, so it really was unbelievable.
So Sanderson's men the first ashore to enjoy the sights and sounds of Melbourne. Just 4¼ hours later, the fireworks over, but the dockside still packed. ABN AMRO TWO slides out of the darkness to take second place. But even returning heroes have one final obstacle to negotiate on the way to the arrivals' berths near the race village. Bolt Bridge stoops just a little too low for the Volvo Open 70 class's 31.5-metre mast. Helped by a suspended water bag, an undignified heel is required of all the boats before they reach the dock. ABN AMRO TWO, the fastest monohull in the world, is no exception. Average age 26, Seb Joss's young crew grabs second for the second leg in a row. And they're 24-hour record holders too.
Oh, it's just a fantastic 24 hours of sailing. The boat was just on fire, there's water everywhere. You're doing 25 to 30 knots the whole time. We had every hatch closed and still the boat's full of water, and you get on the wheel and you do your hour and you just come off the wheel buzzing, so it was pretty awesome.
So it's another 1-2 for Team ABN AMRO. The crew of the white boat consolidates its second place overall. 5 points behind their senior colleagues, but full of confidence. The following day, some 16 hours after the winners, Movistar crosses the line to finish third. Despite ongoing problems with its canting keel, the Spanish yacht restores its self-respect by collecting 9.5 points for the leg, good enough to claim third place overall.
The Southern Ocean has been totally different than in the past. Like all the homework what we've done has changed with the ice work, with the waypoints right there. So that's a bit different, but the sailing has been still fantastic. It's some real nice days, but we have been scared as well because just with the issues with the other boats and with the rams and what we had ourselves, it's not a nice feeling, so it's nice to be back in port.
After leg one disappointment, a podium finish for Bauer Becking. Could the pre-race favourites soon be back on track? After its earlier dismasting, time is running out for Brazil 1, which has to be in Melbourne ready for the import race on February the 4th, repaired and re-rigged. Unable to sail fast enough under jury rig, Torben Grail decides to retire from the leg, arranging a rendezvous with a fishing boat, which will supply them with enough fuel to motor to Fremantle. Trucking the boat the 1,700 miles to Melbourne in time will be a tall order. Some 6 days after leaving Albany, the Black Pearl slips into Melbourne to take 4th place. Despite their disappointments, Kayard and his team still managed to salvage 8.5 points from the leg, which moves them up to 5th position overall. Albany and its frustrations fast receding.
It was just a surreal feeling, a little bit like, wow, it's hard to believe that we just have to stop here take a time out. But I don't know, for some reason I guess I am growing to not expect it, but understand that that's just the way this race is going to be.
If Paul Kayard's arrival feels anticlimactic, Grant Warrington's on ING Real Estate Brunel is anything but. After a large group of supporters turns out to watch the boat sail past Mornington, the skipper's home suburb, hundreds more take to the water to escort the locally designed and built entry across the line in 5th position, some 2.5 days after the leaders. But with no money and no further sponsorship apparently forthcoming, this surely is the end of the road. Or is it?
So the exciting news is Brunel has come to the party to sponsor us as our title sponsor for continuing on in the race. So we're very excited about that news which we've just received.
Under the last-minute deal with Brunel, a Dutch staffing company, Warrington's boat will line up with the rest of the fleet for the Melbourne import race, but it will miss the next 3 ocean legs before rejoining the fleet for the Baltimore import event and the remainder of the race. At least one Dutch sailor is expected to join the crew, but for now, the Australians are back home and still in business. At the end of an incident-packed second leg, Mike Sanderson's men extend their lead over their junior colleagues to 5 points at the top of the leaderboard. Movistar now takes third spot overall, while Brazil One's Dismasting drops them to fourth place. Ericsson's keel ram failure relegates them to sixth. Pirates of the Caribbean's finish moves them up to fifth position. The soon-to-be renamed ING Real Estate Brunel remains in seventh. For two boats, though, the journey to Melbourne is not yet complete. Ericsson finally arrives on top of a cargo ship and will be ready for the in-port race. But Brazil One faces a race against time. After arriving in Fremantle, she must now be trucked to the 2,500 miles across Australia, and there are only 8 days to do it. Meanwhile, Stuart Bannatyne has taken advantage of a few days off to go home to New Zealand to meet his new daughter, Felicity.
ABN, the black boat's going to be a problem for you, Bow.
The boats line up for the Melbourne in-port race. Brazil One has made it in time to start alongside the others.
ABN. Now we've got to stick it to them.
It's dry down the hole, not across the boat.
So the in-port race is once again won by ABN AMRO ONE, who simply didn't make any mistakes. Pirates of the Caribbean are second, Movistar third, Ericsson recovered from a false start to finish fourth, with early race leaders Brazil One fifth. Then come ABN AMRO TWO and finally Brunel.
Glad that's over. There's enough stress for one day.
Overall, the standings now look like this. ABN AMRO ONE with a 7.5-point lead over ABN AMRO TWO. Movistar are third on 18 points. Pirates of the Caribbean a 1.5 further back. Brazil One are fifth. Ericsson sixth. And Brunel, who sit out the next 3 legs, are seventh on 11.5 points. So it's the Dutch entry who continue to dominate this race. Race day, Melbourne. The decision by the Aussie entry Brunel to withdraw from the race until Baltimore hasn't deterred huge crowds coming out to watch the start of the next leg. The crews have regrouped after a testing trip from Cape Town. And once more, it's time to get serious. Here's what lies ahead. The 1,500-mile trip to New Zealand will take these Volvo 70s less than 5 days. The fleet will then pause for 48 hours before leaving en masse for Rio de Janeiro on leg 4. This trip around Cape Horn is the longest in the race, covering some 6,700 miles, and the boats will be at sea for just under 3 weeks. Since the Sancenzo in-port race, Mike Sanderson's ABN AMRO ONE have picked up maximum points. Time for complacency, maybe?
No, we've got to keep an eye on the big picture for sure. Got a little buffer on points-wise, and obviously really important to try and get the boat to Rio in one piece. So we've got to keep the big picture solidly in our heads and not get sort of emotionally carried away about there being 5 Kiwis on board. And if we can have a solid leg, then that'll be good at that. I'd be excited about that.
After 2 legs, ABN AMRO ONE hold a comfortable lead. Their nearest challengers are their sister boat. Movistar are in third, following their first podium finish on leg 2. Brazil 1 are fourth, ahead of Pirates of the Caribbean and Ericsson. Brunel will sit out the next 3 legs. With the wind blowing 12 to 15 knots, the boats line up at the start. As the sun begins to set on the infamous Bass Strait, there's an immediate reminder that this short passage to New Zealand will be anything but straightforward. As the fleet head down the Bass Strait towards the Tasman Sea, the crew of Brunel are forced to ponder on what might have been. Their decision to withdraw from the race and rejoin in Baltimore in April has left their team with plenty of spare time to enjoy the quiet life. Brunel's decision to miss the next 3 legs has attracted criticism, but the crew believe they're doing the right thing.
At the end of the day, Grant and his boat and his team do not want to go around the world finishing 5th or 6th by default, basically, you know, coming last in every leg, bar from the boats that are retiring. So, you know, when the option was there to sort of continue, there was sort of unanimous agreement that the right way to continue is to continue in a competitive way.
That was fantastic, mate. That was fantastic.
As expected, the racing in the early stages is tight. ABN AMRO ONE, full of confidence and looking to win their 3rd consecutive leg, soon set the pace. Bauerbecking's Movistar declare their intent and push Mike Sanderson and the boys hard over the opening 48 hours. It's not long before the mountainous seas take their first casualty. Gerd Jan Portman coming off second best in a collision with one of the daggerboards on ABN AMRO 2.
A bit of an open wound above his eye. It's been a living nightmare. First night, big wave, didn't see sight coming, but didn't realise the strength of it. And even when I realised there's nothing I could do, the damage on the front, the full bit and everything, you can see how massive the water was. It just took me, swept me all the way from the front to the back, and I hit it with my arse on the daggerboard. Somewhere along the line I hit my head somewhere, don't really know where. But I hit the daggerboard and then my back overtook me, and I lay down, I had the waves in the back, you know, can't get up. Feel very down, you know, very helpless feeling.
While the battle continues out on the water, New Zealand eagerly awaits. Allowing the teams just 48 hours respite before the next leg, Wellington marks the first pit stop of the race.
Pit stop is a very short stop between legs. We're only going to have 3 or 4 days, or possibly 2 days, in Wellington in New Zealand. So it's like a stopover, but it's really short, and we put a lot more rules in to make it really tight for people to do any work. The crew can get off the boat and they can eat normal food and sleep in a hotel room, but they can't take anything on the boat to supplement their rations that they've got for the next leg. In terms of work, they're not allowed to do any work on the boat with outside assistance. If they take any outside assistance at all, whether that be people or stores or tools, then they take a 2-hour penalty and they will start 2 hours after the rest of the fleet. It's quite a deterrent. Doesn't sound very long. When you sit on the dock and watch the boat sail off, that's a scary thing.
As the fleet closes in on Wellington Harbour, there's an intriguing development. Movistar has made up ground on ABN AMRO ONE, and the two rivals are battling for the lead. Dawn in Cook Strait. It's the final day of leg 3, and the closest finish in Volvo Ocean Race history is about to unfold. A few hours from the finish, in just 5 knots of breeze, leaders Movistar are being tracked by ABN AMRO ONE, barely half a mile behind after 4 days of ocean racing. After surrendering a big lead, Mike Sanderson's men badly want it back. Unbeknown to Bauer Becking's crew, Movistar's hull is damaged near the keel, increasing the drag on the boat. Winners of the last 2 legs, Mike Sanderson's crew closes in to claim the next, and so resumes a duel that lasts all the way to the finish line. Both boats hug the coastline to avoid the ebbing tide. Barrett Reef, and the breeze picks up. These are now as much Sanderson's conditions as Becking's. Three miles to go. The boats head upwind in 13 knots. (1,450 miles completed, and it's still a match race. Less than a mile to go. Movistar squeezes hard. The Dutch boat cannot survive and bears away sharply. Becking now reacts. The wind shifts. Jennikers go up and Sanderson attacks for the final time. Movistar wins. Its margin of victory, just 9 seconds.
Very, very tense. Never had such a intense yard race, but like all the guys said before, New Zealand is a nice place to win, probably always one of the best stopovers to win, so we did it.
They sailed a good race, and you know, we certainly threw everything at them. We actually crossed them a couple of times, and yeah, I mean, what was it, 9 seconds in the end, but it could have been a little bit closer. We couldn't get one of our sails on the lock, which meant we couldn't do our final real attack on them. But no, I mean, it was amazing yachting.
After Movistar's epic 9-second victory on leg 3, the other yachts are still to finish in Wellington. In third place, Pirates of the Caribbean. Paul Cayard's men enter Wellington Harbour 3 hours behind the leaders.
Oh, we had a few moments that had our attention, but overall we thoroughly enjoyed it. The boat was going great. We had some very exciting rides last night, and there's some great sailing leaving Australia as well, so we love coming over here.
No fairy tale ending for Brazil won after their Herculean efforts to get their mast ready in Melbourne. Torben Grail's crew finished 4th. But they're in better shape than ABN AMRO TWO, where the charge across the Tasman Sea and the battle with 6th-placed Ericsson has taken its toll. Gerd Jan Portman is still feeling the injury sustained when a wave swept him across the deck. The drama continues. Ericsson, the last boat to enter the harbour with unspecified problems, suspend racing just a mile from the finish. Neil MacDonald claiming the repairs can't be made by the crew alone in the 48-hour pit stop. By suspending racing, Ericsson avoid being handed a 2-hour penalty for involving shore crew in Wellington. They'll complete the leg once the situation has been rectified. An extraordinary finish to an extraordinary leg. As Movistar celebrate, however, they know their victory has come at a price. Damage sustained to the hull is extensive.
The shore crew will have to work the 4 days full on 24 hours to sort this out. With the slamming, the front part of the wedge delaminates, and then the pressure of the water gets in the gap and then rips everything. Like the pressure of the water when you are doing 30, 34 knots, it's like big crashes.
3, 4, 5, 6,
Now.
7.
Welcome to Wellington, Ericsson. You're finally finished.
Well, there we go.
There we go.
At last. Better late than never.
2.5 days after they suspended racing just half a mile from the finish line, Neil MacDonald's Ericsson formally finishes leg 3, having successfully exploited a loophole in the race rules. So after leg 3, ABN AMRO ONE are 10.5 points ahead of ABN AMRO TWO. Movistar's win cements their 3rd position, and there's a tight battle for 4th between Pirates of the Caribbean and Brazil ONE. Ericsson are 6th, but reaction on the dockside to their antics has been mixed.
There's no special damage in the boat, it's just trying to make fools of everybody else.
As far as working within the spirit of the rules, you know, this is a top professional event. There's a lot of sponsors' money at stake. You know, everyone's going to just work the rules the best they can. You know, it's a clear loophole that they've taken advantage of. All credit to them, I think.
No, suspension of racing is to stop in the middle of a leg and pull into shore and fix your boat and set off again. But at the end of the day, no, we didn't intend people to come in here in last place and suspend and then fix the boat and then go back and then finish so they don't have to take it to a penalty on the next leg. That wasn't our intention.
Leg winners Movistar will be at the biggest disadvantage. The discovery of damage to the fairing wedges around the keel leaves them with no option but to bring in their shore crew and accept a 2-hour penalty on the restart. But it's not just the boats that are fighting against time to be ready. Gerd Jan Portman is still troubled by his injured back, and a visit to hospital is required.
They can get rid of him, but they can't replace him for this next leg. And they really need him on the boat on Sunday. So, little miracle required here.
Can you sit or not?
Yeah, well, on one side.
Yeah. So, what day did this happen?
Sunday night.
Sunday Tuesday, 5 days ago.
But the X-rays show that the injury is worse than feared. Portman has broken his coccyx and will be unable to sail.
The doctor said be unsafe to go because we are 3 days into this race. We're out of range of helicopters. I get another hit and it can be worse, and you bring the whole campaign in jeopardy.
Replacing Portman is a very eager substitute, Brazilian Lucas Brun. the team member left on the dockside when ABN AMRO 2 left Vigo last November. Brun will be taking the leg 4 route home.
At the beginning I felt very happy. Well, I would be doing the race again, but I still feel a little bit sad from what happened to Johnny. I think he worked as hard as I did, and he deserved to be here too. But this is the leg that I wanted to do the most. Southern Ocean, Cape Horn, and arriving in Rio. You know, everything going bad, and then suddenly you have a home site. So yes, that's the one I wanted to do.
The Wellington pit stop is over. Portman stays, Brun leaves, and the race goes on. Pirates bowman Curtis Blewett is another injured party left on the dockside. But it's still Pirates of the Caribbean who lead the fleet away. 6,700 miles to go there may be, but there's nothing like leaving port first. 2 hours after the first starting gun, their rivals some 25 miles in front of them, Movistar finally gets the word to go. But up front it's the Black Pearl that leads the fleet out into the Cook Strait. Ahead of them, Cape Horn and the screaming winds and towering waves of the Southern Ocean. A day into the leg, the fleet's immediate problem is how best to skirt the remnants of a tropical cyclone. On ABN AMRO ONE, the new race leader, Mike Sanderson opts initially for a northerly route, only to dive south abruptly at the end of day 2. Cashing in a short-term lead now could bring long-term gains.
So here we are in the nav station of ABN AMRO ONE, and this is what you call biting the bullet. This was us up here. The only boat north of us was the kids in ABN AMRO 2, and here you can see the rest of the fleet, basically Ericsson, Pirates of the Caribbean, Movistar and Brazil One. We'd left our options open so that we could possibly go over the top of this low pressure which is spinning away up here, which is going to make its way down here. Basically here's the first of our ice gates here. We've decided though to cough up pretty much all our lead, come south on a hideous heading, 100 degrees to course, so we're actually going backwards, but come down and take our position in amongst the fleet.
On Sanderson's sister boat, Seb Joss's men stick to their guns. Along with Brazil One, they're staying north, but are losing ground to the boats in the south. At least the new boys settling in.
How's the trip going for you so far?
So far it's been very smooth sailing. I feel a little bit sorry for Johnny. He's got some reports about icebergs being that side, so I think we might be seeing some good action here.
5 days into this fourth leg, and the boats are thundering their way from New Zealand towards the ice gates. These have been placed on the route by the race organisers in an attempt to keep the fleet from straying too far into dangerous waters. This is nautical poker, opting to follow the northerly route, Brazil One and ABN AMRO Two. The rest of the pack believe the stronger winds lie further south. Out in front, ABN AMRO One. Losing the last leg to Movistar by just 9 seconds still hurts, and the race leaders are desperate to get to Rio first.
We're back on top with about a 10-mile lead to the Pirates of the Caribbean. So another tricky couple of days coming up now after some relatively smooth sailing for the last 24 hours.
Further north, ABN AMRO Two are beginning to realise that pursuing an alternative route could be costly.
Well, there's not much breeze out here, and the trick is now to push through it as fast as possible. And on the other side, there's more wind and more hope.
Every time it starts to get windy, it gets light before it, and I'm finding it very frustrating right now. I'm a broken man.
Their partner in the north, Brazil One, is also struggling. Desperate to create a frenzy by entering Rio first, a ripped mainsail threatens their progress.
I don't know, I have a few technical problems here with the wiring, but
look at this ultimate technology. NSA, NASA.
No such problems in the south. Waiting for any slip from ABN AMRO One is Pirates of the Caribbean. The Disney entry scorched out of Wellington and onto the Southern Ocean. Just as Pirates of the Caribbean and the others in the south begin to feel triumphant, their route north to pass through the ice gate soon becomes arduous.
So it'll be a little bit slow for the next 24 hours. We've gone 1,600 miles in the first 4 days, so averaging 400 miles a day. It's a pretty good pace. And all the while, pretty easy cruising. Nice sleeping conditions, but it is getting a little bit cold. This is the Captain Paul Pirate on board the Black Pearl, 52 South, out.
Back on the water, Movistar are playing catch-up. They won the last leg but incurred a 2-hour penalty for allowing their shore crew to make repairs. Bauerbecking's crew had to sit and watch while the rest of the fleet raced out of Wellington.
We're at 54 south, temperature's not too bad. The weather's been kind on us. We're about to start levelling off and coming up towards waypoint A, where we're going to pounce on the opposition. It's our turn now. We're just behind, but we like to attack from behind on this boat. And we're going to come good now, and it's all going to come to plan.
With a large ice field ahead of the fleet, the boats head north to round the ice gates. The lighter winds away from the danger zone bring the fleet closer together, and the tension on board is beginning to rise.
It's a very nice day of sailing in the Southern Ocean, made even more exciting for us by the fact that we've got another boat just in front of us, and we're catching them nicely.
Pirates of the Caribbean are suddenly running scared.
100 yards away, after 2,500 miles. It's all on. It's a hell of a boat race.
As Movistar and Pirates of the Caribbean lock horns, the leaders ABN AMRO One are spotted on the horizon. The race is on. And And up ahead is Cape Horn, not just another scoring gate for the fleet, but the most significant nautical landmark on the planet. Rounding it is a rite of passage for the ocean sailor.
Ahead of them lies the southernmost tip of America, the legendary Cape Horn. A wild, isolated promontory of massive rock jutting far out into the roaring 40s and deflecting their fury into some of the world's most treacherous seas.
In the early races, champagne and beer helped the sailors on their way.
The great advantage of a race sponsored by a brewery is plenty of free beer.
But later on, as weight-saving measures were introduced, sailors found other ways of acknowledging the rock.
The Cape Horn cigar.
Right.
What's going on, Knocker?
An Australian tradition, son. Whenever you go past a horn, a noon up is required.
With strong winds of up to 40 knots forecast, the journey around Cape Horn promises to be fraught with danger. Since leaving Wellington, the Volvo fleet has covered some 4,000 nautical miles in 11 days. In the last 24 hours, all 6 boats have clocked well over 500 miles, including 5th-placed Ericsson. But the boat going fastest is the one right behind them, ABN AMRO TWO.
Southern Ocean, 8 miles behind Ericsson on the left again, pushing as hard as we dare for about the past 30 hours. Mate's still pretty bad, so we can't reef. Blowing 30 to 32 knots, so keep on keeping on and hopefully get to the scoring gate ahead of Ericsson, get some more points.
And up ahead, Movistar's battle with Pirates of the Caribbean for 2nd place continues. But in the early hours of day 12, Bauer-Becking's men find they have more immediate concerns. At 3:15 a.m., Movistar starts taking on water through the wet box above the canting keel.
But in a matter of minutes, there was like water up to our hips inside of the boat. So first question, of course, is can we salvage the boat? Because that was the first one that went for all of our minds. So we quickly closed the watertight hatches so that only when the boat would fill up, that only the middle compartment would fill up. And in the meantime, I was upstairs with the other guys dropping the sails. But when I came downstairs, it was just like I got really a shock because I thought this boat is going down. But we have some high-capacity pumps, but of course the problem was that there was the electricity was short-cutting the whole time.
I'm gonna have to turn the batteries off again for a second.
So Chris Nicholson actually dove underneath water and connected the water pumps directly to the batteries, and then very slowly the levels came down.
The situation now under control. Becking decides against sailing to the Argentinian port of Ushuaia for repairs straight away and heads first for the scoring gate at Cape Horn to salvage what points he can. Up ahead of him, the leading boats are already there. First through the gate and 3.5 points to the good, Mike Sanderson's ABN AMRO ONE. The Argentinian Navy even provides an escort. But then there are pirates not far behind. Third through the gate, Torben Grail's Brazil won. They may have missed Carnival, but they're going to make up for it somehow.
Now we have been through the whole Southern Ocean. We didn't crash with any icebergs, and everything is okay. We are in 3rd place, which we are very happy about. And now we are turning the corner and entering the Atlantic Ocean, and every day will be warmer and warmer. So we're looking forward to it.
2 points for rounding the horn in 4th place is ABN AMRO 2. But overtaking Ericsson comes at a price.
Tell Sci-Fi the instruments are frozen.
Just half an hour after losing one of their smaller spinnakers when the bow slams into a huge wave, Seb Joss's men lose its replacement. When the tack line snaps, the sail and the metal furling unit is sent flogging behind the boat. Ericsson has dramas of its own when a battery bank breaks free and its terminal short, starting a resin fire. Yet another trying leg for Neil MacDonald's crew, but there's better news on the horizon.
We weren't in great shape in terms of position-wise when we came out of the Southern Ocean. By hard work, fortuitous weather system and clever placement by Stephen on the course, we've made a great gain on the rest of the fleet. At the moment, I think 50 miles separate first to last, so that's a great thing. We're in a pouncing position of 3 or 4 boats, so it's very exciting times for us.
So, with the back markers making up ground as the leaders hit light winds beyond the Cape Horn scoring gate, ABN AMRO ONE extends its overall lead over its sister boat to 11.5 points. Movistar's hard-won point for rounding Cape Horn helps keep them a 1.5 points clear of Pirates in 4th. Brazil is 5th, Ericsson 6th. Brunel rejoined the race in Baltimore. Meanwhile, Movistar suspends racing and makes a long, slow journey under escort up the Beagle Channel to Ushuaia in Argentina. Its crew shattered and shell-shocked.
The first thing I thought was, am I going to see my family again?
There were 10 very, very determined people on that boat. We weren't stepping into that life raft, and we were going to do everything we could possibly do to avoid that.
I thought that we were sinking. Next thing that I did was, Chris was sleeping, Chris Nicholson. I said, Chris, get the pumps, the electric pumps that luckily Volvo put like compulsory for this leg.
There was so much water already in the boat. The breakers were tripping off and was having a lot of trouble keeping power on. I got the pumps to come on for a couple of seconds, then they crashed. So basically just decided to wire them directly to the battery banks, which is a problem because it's live. So I got electrocuted about 50 times. These basically saved the boat because they do 14 tonne an hour of water. They really send it out, and I guess it just gave the guys a little bit more time to stop the water coming in.
So you can see where the big black square is basically. Before that was filled up, and there was a sliding plate inside there, so the whole sliding plate has been gone. But you can see as well in the big square there is laminate on there, and actually the 2 laminates basically just ripped apart.
Movistar's dreams of winning the race are in tatters. And unless the shore crew can replace the fairing around the keel and repair the damage to the keel box doors, even a podium finish could prove beyond them. Movistar's future hangs in the balance. Back on the racetrack, the fleet may have sailed away from the strongest winds, but it's not escaped the challenges of the leg. With 1,500 miles to go, the boats are still tightly bunched. ABN AMRO 2 have enjoyed the best of the conditions and are now second. Further west, in 3rd place, are Pirates of the Caribbean, and Brazil won in 4th. On the Brazilian boat, Horacio Carabelli's ongoing problem is how best to recycle the precious oil from a leaking keel ram.
It's not a nice job. Not a nice job at all.
Okay, job done. Save the ocean.
Totally unserviceable.
Aboard the Black Pearl, there's concern for their keel ram too. In Ushuaia, repairs to Movistar have been hampered by rain and strong winds. But the crew are beginning to regain some confidence that they can get back into the race.
It's all going really well. The boat's coming along fine, and hopefully we're out here tonight. Ever heard that saying? It's like watching paint dry. That's what we're doing.
Movistar will sail the rest of the leg with its keel locked in the central position. It will take another 7 hours to reach the point at which it suspended racing, and another 7 days to reach Rio. The race leaders are still ABN AMRO ONE, but only by 20 miles.
When you're not in the lead, you're stressing about trying to get in the lead, and when you are in the lead, you're stressing about trying to hold the lead. So it seems like the whole race is about stress. Although I'm sure it's a little more tense for the guys downstairs in the nav station.
Sked just in here.
Our
boys look happy.
Always tense times, but yeah, this is definitely an emotional part of the day. Every 6 hours waiting for the skids. Table gets beaten to death waiting for it, and but no, this is a goodie. Capture this one. 19 miles, Coxie.
17.3 on the kit, 12.5 on the Brazilian, 6.7 on Ericsson.
It's been a productive 6 hours with gains made on the entire fleet, but a lot more work will be required on the run into Rio, over 800 miles away. Rio de Janeiro, soon to be a haven for our exhausted, weary crews after 6,700 nautical miles of punishing seas. Emerging from the darkness to win leg 4 of the Volvo Ocean Race is ABN AMRO ONE. Mike Sanderson's crew are beginning to dominate this race, and their lead is starting to look unassailable.
I enjoy the yachting. I love the competition. I love the boats. I love the group of guys I'm sailing with. We've got an awesome team. I'm enjoying the event. I'm pleased to have this leg over and done with, I'll be honest. As soon as I saw the rule, there was always some apprehension of taking one of these skiffs into the Southern Ocean, you know.
So, as the race reaches the halfway point, it's 3-leg wins from 4 for ABN AMRO ONE. And with 2 import race wins as well, they're going to be hard to catch. As the night draws on, Pirates of the Caribbean begin to stutter in light winds, and Brazil One capitalise. But within hours, Paul Cayard's boat regains second spot and enters Rio de Janeiro as runners-up.
I think my prognosis of how long it would take to get a project like this sorted and in good stead was right on the money. And second place in the Melbourne inshore, and then second to the Horn, and third to Wellington, and second again here. I mean, I think we're starting to see a nice pattern, and I'm getting some confidence from that. The truth is that ABN's a very fast boat. It's a great design, and it's going to be hard to beat that boat. That's the way it is, and anything can happen in sport, and especially in sailing, and we will be definitely pushing as hard as we can on the Pirates of the Caribbean.
The battle for third place is going down to the wire as Brazil One and ABN AMRO Two fight it out on the approach to Rio. But after 6,700 nautical miles, it's the Dutch entry with Lucas Brun on the bow who steal a place on the podium by just 19 minutes.
We really had to raise our game to get on the podium. We had our ups and downs, and the team was really tested, and obviously we've had to fight for every metre and every mile of this race, and it came right down to the finish, and the boys have done a tremendous job. They've come together really well. They've worked really hard.
With a faulty radar, Brazil's first ever entry in the Volvo Ocean Race arrives in Rio believing they are about to cross the line in third. Unbeknown to them, they are the 4th boat to reach the harbour.
Yeah, it is disappointing. We're very pleased we did most that we could to have a good result here, and it wasn't to be this time. No. So have to keep trying to have it in the future.
For Bauer Becking's Movistar, podium places and points are no longer the issue. With a huge volume of work ahead of the crew on arrival, including the replacement of all the electronics and engine parts damaged by its near sinking, Rio can't come soon enough.
We had given a jamón de jabugo from the Spanish tugboat, which is serving the Spanish base in Antarctica. And here we are. A little bit every day for the boys.
Tastes good?
Oh.
In 5 days, with luck, they'll be in Rio. In the meantime, there's Rioja.
Está bien. Super bueno.
Just under 12 hours after Brazil One's entry into Rio, Ericsson arrived to take 5th place. One of the pre-race favourites, it's been another disappointing leg for Neil McDonald's crew. At the top of the mast, clear evidence of the damage done by a lightning strike 18 hours from home that destroyed the electrics. The post-mortem into Ericsson's repeated failings will be more serious. The fallout is immediate. Ericsson rearranged their crew for the next leg. Neil McDonald loses his place as skipper. His replacement, their inshore tactician John Kostecki, who led Ilbrook to glory 4 years ago. McDonald will continue as watch captain.
The boat performance and speed hasn't been, quite up to par. I think Neil and Steve have been struggling at times with certain tactical and strategy calls, and so not that they've been doing a bad job, but I hope to come in and try to improve in any way I can and help the team.
At the end of another eventful leg, here's how the Volvo Ocean Race leaderboard is looking. ABN AMRO ONE are 14 points clear of ABN AMRO TWO at the top, while Pirates of the Caribbean are up to 3rd.